Hey, good morning, everybody. Jeff Slakey and Spencer Hughes on the Daybreak Show. And I've got a real fun conversation now for us via Zoom video conference. It's with the Shelton Toastmasters, some of the great folks who are part of that organization. I've got Bob, James, and Don with me here this morning. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being on the show with me. And Toastmasters is a great organization that helps folks learn and enhance their skills of public speaking. And I've known about the Shelton Toastmasters for a while now. I've always been hesitant to go in because I remember my days at Western for communications and all the things that we used to get in trouble for when giving our speeches. And I know on the radio, a lot of that is just thrown out the window as we're trying to do live broadcasts. So tell me a little bit about Shelton Toastmasters. I'm sure now you're meeting virtually, but where had you traditionally met? And let's start, Bob, let's start with you.
Well, the last couple of years, we've been meeting at the Shelton fire station. So they have a room there, and we meet on the second and fourth Tuesdays at lunchtime. So we've been there, and it's a good location for us, centrally located. We have people I work for Green Diamond, and we have currently 9 members in our organization, and always looking for new members. Some work in the community, some are a little bit further away. And
I live down in Aberdeen, for example.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a great
organization. James, you're from Aberdeen. Then what draws you to the Shelton Toastmasters, or is there not an outlet there? Or
I actually have my home club, Harbor Toastmasters, down here in Aberdeen, and that's my home club. And I started coaching the Shelton Club as the area director, and now I'm actually division director. So I'm in the district leadership. So I pitched in and joined the club, and I'm helping to grow things and kind of be a mentor in some ways to the club and help them grow and whatnot.
Don, what about you? What's your background and what brought you to Toastmasters?
Well, I'm actually a professional speaker. And so what brought me to Toastmasters was always the desire to improve my speaking skills. I mean, I'm very fortunate, and I personally didn't have a problem speaking in front of groups. But there's just so many benefits, even for people who speak all the time. It gives me an audience if I want to test out some material. And we also, in Toastmasters, there's a segment called Table Topics, where we are given a topic and we don't know what it is in advance. We have 2 minutes, from 1 to 2 minutes to talk about that topic. And it really helps you learn how to think on your feet, how to think creatively and try to put together in some structure in a relatively short period of time. It also, the other nice thing about that is you learn how to recognize how long you're speaking. Meaning that 2 minutes, sometimes it's a long time and sometimes it's like, oh wow, I'm at 2.5. How did I get there?
I have that problem.
I have great memories when I was up at Western in my kind of final year there, when I was supposed to be studying for my finals. We would find ourselves in kind of the COM 101 room, and the freshmen would have had like a visual aid that they needed for their speech. So instead of studying for my finals, my group would grab one of those visual aids. We'd give each other 30 seconds to look at it, and then we would have to give 5-minute speeches about that visual aid.
I love that idea. We need to do that.
It is a hoot, and it really stretches your imagination and helps you kind of connect disparate. I remember one I did on hot air balloons, and somehow I tied in, like Route 66 and the Southwest, and it's a lot of fun. What are the different types? The table talk. I'm sure you do some, professional speeches and things like that. What are the different types that you go over at Toastmasters?
We have a lot of varieties because it is, in many ways, you go at your own pace and you set your own topics. So like Dawn was saying, if she has a speech that she's going to be doing, professionally, she can take whatever that speech is, and there's going to be some particular project in the Toastmasters curriculum called Pathways that it'll fit in with. and she'll be able to actually get credit in the Toastmasters education program for practicing a speech that she's giving professionally. I've known a lot of people who have a work presentation to do for their bosses, and they'll bring in, it's like, pretend you're a board of directors, and we'll all pretend to be a board of directors, and evaluate her based on that. And she'll give a presentation along that lines. I've done, narrative stories. I've taken old tales, brought them to modern life. I've done lots of different things in my time as a Toastmaster. It really depends on what you want to do. It's very flexible in that way.
And there's a lot of different variety. The topics are chosen by the speakers, so it can be anything from, I like to talk about travel, Dawn talks about her Icelandic courses, James talked about his different experiences.
I have lots
and then we emphasize different things during those. Like there's sometimes you're supposed to be humorous, or you're supposed to work on your voice, or you're supposed to work on your physical hands and that gestures, how that works. So there's different things you focus on. And then at every meeting, when you speak, you get an evaluation too. So there's somebody that comes up in the club and gives you their evaluation of your speech. So it's it's not only you speaking, but you get feedback, and you have to give feedback too. So you have to listen effectively and be prepared to give other people feedback. So it's really a collaborative, kind of a safe learning environment for all of us.
That's really key, actually. I just want to piggyback on what Bob was saying there about the evaluations. I think personally that the evaluations are the backbone of Toastmasters, because you are trained in how to give a quality, constructive criticism, which is really valuable in the world, and learning how to take constructive criticism and learn and grow from it at the same time, which is also really valuable. And so that's really, really useful. And like you said, Toastmasters is a safe place. I always say it's a safe place to fail. When you make a mistake, as we always do, things get messed up. And this is a place where you can learn and grow and pick up, instead of, giving a horrible presentation in front of your boss. You can give a horrible presentation in front of us, and we'll help you make it better.
So for me, I think the impromptu speaking, like Don was talking about, and the evaluation are probably the things I use almost every day. Getting up and giving a speech, you do that periodically, but the other tools are things I use every day, like I was saying.
You talk about different pathways and the programs there. So it's a group structure. Talk to me a little bit about how that all works. Are there dues, and then the dues go to more learning, or how does that work? It's not just a group of folks that are Toastmasters. It's a organization, a 501c3, right? Nonprofit organization.
Global.
It's an international organization that has all these, has a program set up. I don't know how many, James, you may know how many clubs and people.
There's 11 separate paths that you can take that are tailored to what you need, like whether it's, management or humorous speaking or coaching or whatever. And so they're tailored to you, and each one has 5 levels in it, and you get, certificates for each level you complete. And if you complete 2 levels and do a bunch of other projects that train your leadership skills and hone you in a wide range of areas, you get what's called a Distinguished Toastmaster Award, or DTM, which, as far as the number of, focused, dedicated hours, is roughly equivalent to a bachelor's degree. As far as the notoriety you get and the amount of stuff you put into it, it's pretty significant. You can put it on your resume. It's accredited, recognized around the world.
Wow.
And they test it all. It's like, this is solid stuff. And so a lot of the dues that you pay, which is $45 per every 6 months, go directly to Toastmasters to help, provide the training and the resources. And a lot of that goes back down through into the districts, where the district can provide training and continuing ongoing support for the clubs. But clubs sometimes also have their own club dues to help support, paying for a venue and that kind of stuff too.
Don, tell me a little bit about how your training as a public speaker has helped transition from all the in public speaking to now this virtual speaking. When I talk with guests a lot, I try to, when we talk about the camera use, and you look in the eye of the camera and pretend it's a person's eye, and things like that. How have you been able to transition from in public person speaking to this digital format?
Well, I am fortunate in that I have a background in video production. So for me, it's been a very easy transition. I have to admit, from a personal standpoint, it takes a while. I think it's true of anyone. It takes a while to get used to seeing yourself on camera. Thankfully, I'm very accepting of my appearance, for example. So again, it doesn't bother me. There are people who don't have facial paralysis, for example, who probably have a harder time being on camera than I do. But one of the things it does do is it does force you to think, all right, what do I have to do? I tried to set up my microphone, the mic didn't work, so I went with the camera on the laptop. So as you understand, there's always the technical level to deal with. I did a webcast a couple of years ago where I did about 24 different episodes. So I got a lot of practice seeing myself, interviewing people. What do I look like? What do I have to do to set it up technically so it works? That Toastmasters, honestly, yeah, we've had to go to the Zoom format. Our meetings are in Zoom right now. So the meeting at the fire station is actually not happening right now. So please don't show up at the fire station until, if you want to join us, we would love to have you. In fact, that's one of the things, not to change the subject, but I did want to make sure that we get in how people can find us.
Yeah, please. I'm sure now, especially because the physical location is not there. How are folks able to access you?
Go to the website.
Is
you go to sheltonwa.toastmasterclubs.org. So sheltonwa.toastmasterclubs.org. And there's a contact us form on there. It'll give us information about our current meeting stuff is on there. We also have a contact us form. You can send in your email and contact us, and we'll get back with you and loop you in with stuff. Send you the agendas, all that kind of thing.
What are some, each of you, if you have a quick tip for someone who has to give a presentation today or over the weekend to a group of folks, do you have something that you always go back to in your toolkit? A lot of folks will say, imagine them in their underwear. And then I've read too that you don't want to do that, or you look at the foreheads, or you look just above the eye line, stuff like that. Let's go around the horn here, and if you guys have tips for you.
Sure. The first one that comes to mind that I always like to tell people is that the way you interpret your own body language determines how they're going to interpret it. If everybody's going to be to a certain degree nervous, but physiologically nervousness is identical to excitement. And so if you rephrase it and you change your body language, like if you're in real person, you walk up to a lecture a certain way, or behind a camera, you sit up and square your shoulders in a certain way, you're triggering your body to exude confidence, and it rephrases and reframes that nervousness into excitement, and then your audience will say, oh, he's excited to be talking to us, and they feel connected, and it gets away from all the jitters that come from the nervousness aspect of it.
Oh, that's a good one. Don, what about you?
Well, probably, like I said, I never had to deal much with the fear of being in front of people, and I know that I'm in the minority. That's like a number one fear for people. However, for me, probably the biggest tip is be prepared. Because if you know your material and you're comfortable with your material, it's going to be a lot easier to convey that. If you're worried about how people are going to react, if you're worried about remembering what it is you're supposed to be saying, that is going to just add to the potential of freezing up. I mean, I actually did a TEDx talk, and that was my number one biggest fear, is that I was going to forget like halfway through, because you're in front of a live audience. Mm-hmm. It's not like, oh, excuse me, let me go check my notes. That just doesn't work.
And when it comes to those types of things, when it comes to someone who is fearful perhaps of speaking, you may default to writing out every single word in your script and if you start to get flustered or something, you look down, you lose your place, you're unable to find it. So, having the preparedness and even able to fall back to just a talking point or one line, if you're prepared, should get you through at least that segment.
Yeah.
Right. You can do. That's probably the point I would, build upon what James and Don said. When you get in your speech, sometimes you want to be so precise, you get aggravated because you're trying to be exact, and you get flustered, and then you and that's what I try to do, is make sure I'm well prepared, have some talking points. And if I get to a point where I get a little nervous or get off track, I just try to get back to look at the talking points. And don't worry about hitting every point exactly how you plan to do it. Just get back and start communicating what you're talking about. And in most speeches, you have a time to go back and recap anyway. It's usually at a meeting where you have a chance to, if you miss something, you can always get back and get back to that point you missed it later on.
Shelton Toastmasters meets on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays virtually. I'll put the links to the show notes when I post this interview, so folks will get a better chance to get in touch with you and hopefully get those roles up there and get some more confident speakers around the area. Bob, James, and Don, thank you so much for taking some time this morning. And as we talk about, being prepared, we had some technical difficulties, but you all rolled through it great. And thank you so much for being accommodating. And it was a good conversation. I'm glad that I got a chance to talk with you guys.
Honor.
Great. Thank you,
for having
Jeff.
us.
You guys have a
Thank
great
you.
one.
You too.
All right, you too.